Yeah. So here's the report by Albert Breer. He joined the crew doing the broadcast on Thursday, and make this a little bigger. And he said, well, ahead of kickoff, Albert Breer joined in and talked about Woody Johnson. And the quote is, it's a tenuous time right now in the Jets building. And for people who work there, people who have worked there in the past, people who work there now, that all goes right back to the top. And the top is Woody Johnson. It says, owner Woody Johnson badly wants to win. He sunk resources to make that happen, but he's also created an environment that the people there don't feel like is all that conducive to actually accomplishing that. And that is because he listens to too many non-football people on football matters. And he also pays too much attention to what's going on the internet. So that's the fans. And that's what led to what people there feels like an unpredictable boss. Unpredictable boss. And right now, a lot of people there are walking around on eggshells. These are things that Saleh and Douglas were warned about before they went there. Now, when you combine this with what we heard and what we know from Bill Belichick, for example, he basically said the same thing. He said, Woody, he's too unpredictable. When we fired Saleh, he said, well, that's Woody for you. He's very unpredictable. And that's what happens with Woody Johnson. So that's kind of interesting. And then, you think about it, we fired Saleh for no good reason. And we put in charge Saleh Jr., basically a less intelligent Saleh in Ulbrich. What was the point of that? And you have all these people saying he's not creating an atmosphere conducive to winning because he listens to too many non-football people. Now, who are these non-football people? Exactly. Now, if you remember, I put out a podcast a while ago about Joe Douglas, and I used a colorful way to describe it, that the money men were the ones who were involved in all of the machinations to get Aaron Rodgers here and all of the stuff that we did afterward to make him comfortable, like getting all of the Green Bay Packers that we could possibly fit on the roster. And I said, it seemed to me that that whole situation was not a Joe Douglas production. It seemed like the money men were getting involved. And I think that's who these non-football people really are. It's the money men. Because if you think about it, the whole Aaron Rodgers versus Derek Carr debate was really a debate about, do we trade for Aaron Rodgers and give up assets and give up draft picks and all that? Or do we just sign Derek Carr for money and don't give up any draft picks? And I think if you think about it, I think looking back on it, probably Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh probably wanted Carr, given that we would have to give up all of these draft picks, make a trade, and then all of the PR headaches that come with Aaron Rodgers being who he is and all of his outspokenness and all of that. When you could have had a less good quarterback for sure, but a younger one and one that had less injury risk and less PR risk, but also was less high profile, not as high profile as Aaron Rodgers, and so wouldn't have been as good for the money side of the house. So the problem is, and this exists in a lot of different organizations, where you have the money side of the house and the football side of the house. And you'd like these things to be in sync, but a lot of times they're not. For example, do we acquire Aaron Rodgers or Derek Carr? That was a huge decision that we had to make. They were both available, and we could have gotten pretty much either one. The money men were saying it's Aaron Rodgers. Look, he's a better player than Carr, and the amount of marketing and tickets and all the things we can sell with him is going to be way more than what we could do with Derek Carr. And I think so that's what the money men were saying. But I think the football people were saying, let's go get Derek Carr. All he costs us is money. We could build up the team around him with all these draft picks that we don't have to trade. And let's get him. He's younger. He's less injury risk because of the age. And he throws for every year. He throws for 4,000 yards. Yeah, he's not as good as Aaron Rodgers. He's not as high profile as him. Understandable, but he's younger. We could sign him to a longer deal. We'll know. We'll have some. We'll know he'll be here for those amount of years. With Aaron Rodgers, he could retire at any moment and decide, you know what, and I'm done with you people. And but who won the battle? The money men. So I think Woody Johnson. I think that's what's going on between these lines that Albert Breer is reporting. I think between the lines, the non-football people who are the money men and the football matters are now in conflict, or at least were for this huge. I mean, that was the biggest decision we've had to make in the last 3 years or so, or whatever, 2 3 years, as to what is our team going to look like. Well, we went for Aaron Rodgers, and now everything, then all of the things that went with Aaron Rodgers. Let's get the Green Bay. Do you really think Joe Douglas wanted to acquire Billy Turner and this one and that one, all the Green Bay Packers that we possibly could get? I don't think he wanted to do that. I think that was the money men saying, make Aaron Rodgers as comfortable as possible. Get whatever he wants. Get Billy Turner in here. One of the worst offensive linemen I've ever seen in my life. Get get all these people. Let's get Alan Lazard for 11 mil. Let's get this one and that one. And so I think this is not that unusual, and it's certainly not the worst ownership situation in the world, but we have a conflict between the money men and the football people. And what I would say, if I were Joe Douglas, what I would say to Woody is, if you let the football people do the football stuff, we'll produce a winner, and then the winning will make you money. The winning will produce the money. And Woody Johnson probably looks at it and says, well, wait a minute. I let you and Saleh run this team for up to 4 years now before he fired Saleh. And where's the result? You're the ones who took Zach Wilson. I didn't tell you to take Zach Wilson. The money men didn't tell you to take Zach Wilson. That was your decision. I didn't tell you to hire Mike LaFleur. You guys decided to do that. I didn't tell you to hire Nathaniel Hackett. You guys decided to do that. So all of the football matters, the ones that really counted, like the quarterback and how the offense is going to run, I let you do that, and look where we are. Look where that got us before, and then we had to get into the Aaron Rodgers, Derek Carr debate situation. So maybe I should just listen to the non-football people and try to get a winner that way. And after all, Aaron Rodgers, it's not like he's a bum before we got him. This is a 4-time MVP, Super Bowl champion, da 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 da. So what doesn't it make football sense to also get Aaron Rodgers over Derek Carr? Is the way he's probably looking at it. And that's, it's not a ridiculous thing to think. If Aaron Rodgers ever would return to his 2022 form, none of this would matter because we'd be really good. So I think that's what this is saying. Now, what does all this mean? I think what has to happen. Now, I think the problem comes in with Woody's judgment because he's never really run a company. Remember, he runs a hedge fund. So hedge funds are just taking a lot of rich people's money, putting it in the stock market, and spreading it out in such a way, diversifying it in such a way that you make money when the stocks go up and you have a lot of volume. That's not exactly running a company that sells a product to a consumer. So I think the problem with Woody Johnson is he's never really run a business himself. Now, of course, his family owns Johnson and Johnson, but he's not involved in Johnson and Johnson. All right, so here's Daniel saying, where is this coming from, Daniel? Let me know. If they're talking to Christopher, they'd be very stupid, Daniel. So let me know what the source of that is. I'll check it out. So, and JD has not been seen in public because he doesn't have to be. He only has scheduled things that all general managers do, and that's all he does. He doesn't do extra, Phil, and nor would we want him to. Coming out and talking to the public doesn't help anybody in this situation. He's not going to tell you the real information, anyways. So he's just going to give you the stock answers. So what needs to happen? So I think Woody needs to have enough. He's not selling the team, as I mentioned earlier. We're not getting rid of Woody. He's going to be here. We're not getting rid of Christopher. Christopher is Woody Jr. 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 He's like a much dumber version of Woody. So there's no point in talking about Christopher unless there's something in the news like Daniel's talking about that I missed, which is certainly possible because I do a lot of filtering. So I certainly can miss certain things in the media. But so going to Christopher, I don't think would be the answer. But again, I'd like to see what the report is so we could check it out. But Woody, I think, has a problem. He doesn't know what to do. The company has to make money. It is a company, after all. It's a business. It has to make money to function and keep all these people employed and not be in the red. But at the same time, the best way to do that is winning football games. But all of the football men he's put in charge have not won. And they've made bad decisions like drafting Zach Wilson and putting Mike LaFleur in charge and then putting Nate Hackett in charge. And then so all of these things have led to not enough winning. And so what is Woody to do? Well, I think what he should do, I think Woody needs a consigliere. When the mafia has a problem and the Don doesn't know what to do, he goes to his consigliere. And he says, consigliere, what should we do? And the consigliere is somebody who doesn't have a dog in the fight. He's not a part of, in this case, if we used one, he's not part of the money side, and he's not part of the football side. He sits in the middle. And he's just there to be a nonpartisan dude to give advice to the Don, who in this case is Woody Johnson. So I think if Woody was smart, he would hire a consigliere to help him when he has conflicting objectives. When the football people are telling him one thing and the money men are telling him another thing, then you go to the consigliere and you say, hey, what should we do here? And it becomes sort of like your top advisor. And it'd have to be somebody who understands PR, somebody who understands football to a degree, who understands the financial side to a degree. And I happen to know who this should be, but we'll save that for another video. There's a man out there. It's not me. It's not me, but there's a man out there. Used to be part of the Green Bay organization. But in a certain capacity, that could help us. And he's not in football right now. So I think that's what we need to root for because he's not selling the team. We got a problem with this tension between the money side of the house and the football side of the house. And I think we need a consigliere or like a CEO. You could hire a CEO or call it whatever you want. The, chief executive officer. You could call it the chief. You call it whatever you want. Chief consigliere officer. It doesn't matter what you call it. And that would be his role, to just give unbiased, unvarnished, unincentivized advice to Woody. And he's just a sort of a middleman. So I think that's what really is going on. And then you think about Belichick, and you think about the all of the criticisms he had, because I think what we're finding out now is that the Belichick problem with the Jets isn't really with the Jets per se. It's with Woody. I think Bill Belichick really hates Woody and really hates this impulsiveness that he has. I think we found that out through his commentary this offseason, or this season, really. It's not really the Jets, it's Woody. Because if you remember, when he left, it was when the team was getting sold from Leon Hess to Woody Johnson. Once Woody Johnson was announced as the owner, Belichick was out of here. And I think he just really didn't like Woody, and Woody's still here 24 or 5 years later, and Belichick's still criticizing Woody Johnson very harshly so. And then you combine that with the reporting of What we got, Dirty Diana Rossini, DDR, and Zach Rosenblatt over at The Athletic. Bad reporting, but still probably got the flavor of this right. That there was this something going on. They were, reporting on bad vibes basically at One Jets Drive. And this is probably what they were picking up on. Not that this is like particularly terrible, and there's probably a lot of football teams that have this problem, especially the ones who don't win. The ones who win don't have this problem because the winning takes care of the money and then everybody's happy. But when you're not winning, it's, consternation time. So that's the problem. That's the problem, and that's the thing I think that Woody needs to really consider. Now, in this article, he says the internet. He pays too much attention to the internet, so maybe he could watch this video, Mr. Johnson. You need a consigliere, sir, and I know exactly the guy for you. We'll get you hooked up. Come in there. Because if you remember, and then if you remember too, the history when we had Gase and McCagnon, they both reported up to Woody Johnson. Here's Woody Johnson. Here's Gase and McCagnon. They both reported to Woody. Then Woody said, "Okay, that didn't work. I'm going to hire Douglas, and then Salah's going to report to Douglas, and Douglas reports to me." So he changed that around, which tells you that he's not sure what structure we should use, right? So again, he's flopping around, he doesn't know how to run. If you think about Robert Kraft, whatever you think about him of the Patriots, he runs a business. His family runs multiple businesses, and he's run a business where you have to sell products to people and do marketing and have the HR and all the departments you need, accounting and all these things you need in a business that you need to sell a product to people. And if those people don't want to buy your product, you go out of business. Woody Johnson runs a hedge fund, and that's much, much different. So I just don't think he has those skills right now. That's what he needs a consigliere for. So that's Woody Johnson. And I think that's what's really going on here with all of these media reports. Adam says, "Who is it?" Well, you'll just have to stay tuned, Phil. Maybe I'll do a video about who should it be. It's a very interesting choice. Certainly not Green Bean, no. Green Bean, if you think about it, Jets Paulie's here. He says, either you, I think he means either you or your guy Green Bean. Green Bean's a little too emotional. You think Green Bean would be in there screaming and yelling, "We got to get Yeboah the ball more." Green Bean is not the cool-headed guy we need. He'd be way too emotional, I think. Very well intentioned, but we need somebody who's just level-headed. Paulie, he probably needs to be an MBA, all right, but also needs to understand football, needs to understand public relations, needs to understand that it's a tricky position, right? You need to have some football knowledge, but also some business knowledge. It's not an easy thing to find somebody with all those skills to understand public relations, which is a huge, huge part of football and this business right now, is public relations. And that's huge. And that's the thing that Saleh got wrong. Well, one of the things. He's terrible with public relation, PR. All the things he would say at the podium. Very bad. Nate is here. Morning, Mocha. Yeah, this is your coffee with Frankie. This is the coffee. I am the Frankie. Phil says thumbs up. All right, so that's that story.
Did you know that if you click the subscribe button right now, Alan Lazard will receive a lifetime subscription of Stickum football adhesive? Click the subscribe button right now so we never have to watch Alan Lazard drop a pass ever again. Please, I am begging you.